An estimated 4,000 people are trapped on a beach in southeastern Australia, desperate for rescue, but surrounded by one of about 100 wildfires raging in the area. 12 people have died since the fires began in September, including a firefighter who was killed this week. The fires have burned more than 12 million acres. Georgia Love from our partners at Network 10 is there.
The state of Victoria is facing its worst bushfires in years. One of the hardest hit areas is in the east of the state, a coastal town called Malakuta, where huge fires have turned day into night. The town hit 120 degrees at 8 a.m. The sky turning an apocalyptic red as flames and smoke blanketed the entire area. 4,000 people were forced to flee to the water and to the beach as flames took hold and leaked dangerously close to the town. Now, the extent is still not known of the damage, as those people are still stranded and unable to return to their properties. We have just had confirmed that the Army has been briefed and are readying personnel from the Navy, ships, fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters ready for mass evacuations from the area.
The sad of the bushfires is not just the people that suffer, it's all of the animals, and this is just heartbreaking to come along here and the fence line's just littered with animals that have tried to get out, and they've broken through the fence here trying to get through, and look at this, it's disturbing. It is really, really disturbing. That is just such a waste. You know, that's just terrible. Where could they have gone? These animals, they're nowhere for them to go, and they're just littered on the side of the road. And, they're everywhere. It's very sad.
I'm in a street called the Quarterdeck, and this will show you just the sort of devastation of how many houses have been lost here in this area. Particularly when you look at this street, there is house after house that was hit by the flames and totally destroyed. Some of 87 houses that have been destroyed here, and some of the families did manage to get out safely. No one was injured, at least in this street anyway, but you can see why they had to leave in a hurry. This all happened in a matter of minutes, which gave very little time for those who wanted to escape the flames, because we've already heard that some decided to stay and then realised it was just simply too late to defend, and so they had to jump into the lake. But these sort of houses, the lake is several hundred metres from here down the hill, so there would have been no chance of escaping. The gentleman who lived here, he makes sculptures for a living, and sadly, not only has he lost his house, but many of his wonderful artworks have gone as well. Have a look at this car though, because not only has the car been destroyed, but those silvery materials spilling on the ground is part of the engine block and part of the wheel housing. That would mean temperatures reached several hundred degrees in order for that to melt. It's pretty extraordinary. It shows you the intensity of the flames, which is why when you think about staying and defending, you've got to consider whether you can defend against heat that could do something like this.
Alright guys, Nola Butterfly here. We have the apocalypse in Australia. And this is going to bring up a theme here, making a video on it, but I need to make this video here talking about controlled burns and how the false sustainability narrative well-intentioned though many within it are, is actually making the fires worse through a policy of preventing controlled burns, which only make the fires worse down the road. Now, on top of bad land management practices, 100 years of things we've known forever about controlling the fires, the Native Americans used to control the fires. You control the underbrush and the things that are more likely to catch fire, and it's good for the forests. So we're going to find out exactly what why that is here. We know what happened in California. Here was a comment to one of the California fire videos I mirrored. How does a fire stop? A dirt fire breaks, but jumps 8 lanes of concrete. I live in rural NorCal, where we routinely did fire breaks around our pastures and homes and even small towns, along with clearing trees and brush. I say did until our Dem politicians made unsafe wildland regulations. This stopped many natural wildfires from burning invaluable ranch and agricultural land, and saved towns and houses. Our fire breaks were nowhere as wide as those freeways. But hey, save the forests, save the oaks, manzanita and pines, don't forget the effing beetle. California politicians blame PG&E, but PG&E workers and California citizens know that California regulations and their idea of the Green New Deal, coupled with their plan to burn California, is the cause. California politicians provided the fuel, the powers, the PTSB powers that shouldn't be executed their weapons. We can't afford to live here, as those designated in a fire hazard are seeing insurance quadruple to $8,000 to $14,000 per year. And those like me, my insurance doubled, adding another $100 per month. And don't forget that PG&E fines and lawsuits costs were passed on to us, and my PG&E for 2 retired people jumped from $400 per month to $800 per month. And we don't hardly use AC or heat. We can't afford it. Our home is only 1,200 square feet. Oops, I digressed. This is insanity. Natoma, California. 6 cars eerily sitting offside a freeway, but no drivers anywhere. Almost like the cars just stalled and they left. One car is engulfed in flames, blowing black smoke. As the driver recording passes, he looked in his rearview mirror and says, the car sitting next to it just exploded in flames. This is an attack, people. But let's see here. What is this thing going on here?
And I'll do the timeline and show it was a complete surprise to the fire departments and kept growing. Here we see absolute devastation, but then we see trees. This was in May. It was 86 degrees in May in Canada, folks. Look at the inside of this car. Doesn't this remind you of 9/11, when cars were charred outside of the 9/11 buildings? Look at this house right next to it. Absolute devastation, but the other house is still perfect. This is what I mean. So first let's look at the timeline of how this fire started, and then we'll get into a little more about what happened.
Okay, so this is take the redpillinfowar.com. We'll have this story. But it's time to rethink how we fight forest fires. America's learned long ago how to keep cities from burning, and then it seems that we forgot. Every major fire rekindles another round of commentaries about America's wildfire problem. But the fact is that our nation does not have a fire problem, it has many fire problems, and they require different strategies. Some problem fires have technical solutions, some demand cultural calls, all are political. Here's one idea. It's time to rethink firefighting in the geekily labeled Wildland-Urban Interface, or WUI, zones where human development intermingles with forests, grasslands, and other feral vegetation. Urban and wildland fire agencies are as different as fire hydrants and drip torches. The mantra of urban fire control is learn not to burn. Every fire is an existential threat to life and property. For wildlands, the central code is learn to live with fire. Firefighters wear hard hats, carry shovels and pulaskis, and wear bandanas. They work in woods, prairies, and chaparral, spray dirt, as often as water, and secure perimeters by setting fires to removable flammable vegetation between the flaming front and their control lines. There are great challenges to restore good fire to biotas that hunger for it. So biotas is the other fauna and life. So get the brush fire to burn that's wanting to go up. Get it out of the way. Training that each group gets is largely worthless in the other setting. So forest fires are different than city fires. The fact that so many horrendous fires have started from power lines illustrates how fires mediate between the land and the ways we choose to live on it. Strengthening structures, bolstering urban fire services, treating WUI areas as built environment. This is where we will get the greatest paybacks. In effect, we need to pick up the other end of the WUI stick. Think of these areas not as wildlands encumbered by houses, but as urban and ex-urban enclaves with peculiar landscaping. Defining the issue as fundamentally a wildland problem makes fixes difficult. Defining it as an urban problem makes solutions quickly apparent. The goal should be to segregate the two fire cultures and their habitats and let each do what it does best. Americans learned long ago how to keep cities from burning, and then it seems we forgot. Research repeatedly shows that the critical component in the WUI fire environment is the structure itself. Once a fire strikes the urban fringe, it may morph into an urban conflagration, spreading from structure to structure, as happened in Santa Rosa, California last fall. Okay, decades ago, federal fire agencies gave up on suppression as a sole strategy. They recognized that the best way to control fire is to control the landscape, preferably through fire, and that eliminating all fires in places that have grown up with them only creates conditions that make wildfires worse. By contrast, for CAL FIRE, the urgency of fires rolling into communities trumps all other tasks. If the last firefight fails, it has to double down for the next one. Today, the WUI is exerting a similar transformation at the national level. It threatens to become a black hole in America's pyrogeography, drawing federal land agencies, primarily the United States Forest Service and the Department of the Interior's Bureau of Land Management, away from managing fires as a means of managing land, and transforming them into urban fire service surrogates and auxiliaries. These agencies can and do help communities prepare for fires, but they do not have the tools, training, or temperament to fight fire on an urban model. CAL FIRE's template is too expensive. Moreover, it sucks resources away from managing fire well on the land, so it's too ineffective to serve nationally. Turning the U.S. Forest Service into a national fire service may bring some relief to the WUI, but this would undermine the other missions in the agency's charter and ultimately weaken its ability to manage landscape fire. Already, its fire mission is consuming over 50% of the Forest Service annual budget. So this is horrible political policy that is making things worse. A century of fire suppression is why California is in flames. A century of fire suppression is why California is in flames. We have 100 years of fire suppression that has led to this huge accumulation of fuel loads, just dead and downed debris from trees and plant material in our forests and in woodlands, says Perlman. As a result of that, our forests and woodlands are not healthy, and we're getting more catastrophic fire behavior than we would otherwise. Addressing the problem will require a revolution in land management and in people's relationship with fire, and there are signs both may be beginning. As a child in Southern California, Perlman was deeply afraid of wildfire. But at the community college, she learned that Native Americans used fire for thousands of years to manage forests and grasslands and protect their villages. Tribes regularly burned California's oak woodlands, for instance, to remove underbrush and fight pests. It helped them spot prey more easily, keep weevils out of the acorns they gathered for food, and safeguard their homes from wildfires. In 2009, Perlman transferred to the University of California, Berkeley to study fire ecology. There, she worked on her first prescribed burn. I instantly fell in love with the ability to use fire in a positive way to accomplish objectives. She says she trained as a firefighter so she could put fires to use as a land management tool. 2 years ago, while she was finishing her doctoral dissertation, she began working part-time at Burin. Last fall, she presented her boss with suggestions for using fire to restore overgrown landscapes, both at Burin and across the North Bay Area region. He approved, and Perlman, 28, started as a full-time fire ecologist in January. set her first burn in May and began organizing a task force to conduct burns and train local crews. She knew how fire-prone the region is. Still, the big blazes in October caught her by surprise. Thought I had more time to get work done. I'm more certain than ever that there's a lot we can do between now and the next time this happens to make it so that the negative consequences to people are nowhere near as dramatic. When fire hits overgrown wildlands, it burns hotter and is much more likely to kill stands of trees and threaten property and people's lives. When fire hits overgrown wildlands, it burns hotter and is much more likely to kill stands of trees. So we're seeing them not killing the stands of trees, but just completely annihilating the homes and the cars and the people. And it also unleashes the carbon held by trees, other plants, and soil. Forests store enormous amounts of carbon, more than double the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and continuously soak up more, blunting the impact of all the greenhouse gases released by burning fossil fuels in power plants and cars. In recent decades, the size of fires, their intensity, and the length of the fire season have all grown dramatically. The more destructive a fire, the more carbon it releases. So all these fires are major carbon makers. They're causing global warming. In fact, largely because of fires, California's forests emitted more carbon than they soaked up between 2001 and 2010. According to a 2015 analysis by National Park Service and UC Berkeley scientists. After 100 plus years of fire suppression in forests, we're seeing a lot more tree-killing wildfire, says Matthew Hurtaugh. So this is, I'm not really concerned about CO2-based climate change. I'm concerned about pollution, and I'm concerned about aerosols, ultrafine and nanoparticulate aerosols, and their interaction with microwaves and water vapor, and pollution. Those are the things I'm worried about. CO2 is not what I'm worried about. Spread the remnants on the forest floor. Okay. Now the trees are wildly spaced. Sunlight shines through the canopy. The high Sierras are visible in the distance. If a fire were to come through here, Collins says it's likely it would stay on the ground and it wouldn't harm the trees or emit much carbon. For the record, here we wanted to explain why we filed the lawsuit in the first place. We are strongly in favor of helping citizens create 100 feet of defensible space around their homes as per state law and developing strategic fuel breaks directly around communities. Such practices have proven to be incredibly effective if combined with fire-safe community designs, no wood roofs, ember-resistant attic vents, etc. That is not what the county is planning to do with the $7 million in federal funds they received. The county wants to use taxpayer money to clear what they decide are dead and diseased trees 500 feet, nearly 2 football field lengths, away from roads and homes. If you consider the number of roads and structures on Pelham Remote, one of the areas where we think they might use the funds, a significant portion of the mountain will be impacted. Okay. Not only is this unnecessary and a waste of money, but may in fact increase fire risk by spreading flammable invasive weeds and by giving people a false sense of security. The dead trees are gone, now I'm safe. Dead trees are not the problem, but are great as political distractions because they provide the Board of Supervisors an easy way to say they have done something for fire safety, instead of, say, adequately funding a county fire department. SD County has the most poorly funded fire protection service in the entire state. This kind of fuel reduction money needs to be used where it will do the most good, around people's homes and neighborhoods not far away, in the backcountry to cut trees that pose a little risk fire. So yeah, just mismanagement, and mismanagement at this level, stupidity can only explain so much, although I'll never underestimate the power of it, huh? Okay, January 2018. After raging through almost all of December, the so-called Thomas Fire, California's largest wildfire ever recorded, was finally contained in January. Lack of fire prevention measures. The fires across the state caused unprecedented damage and loss of life. Unsurprisingly, California Governor Jerry Brown was quick to pin the blame on climate change for the forest fire's ferocity and extraordinary longevity this season. Whatever truth there may be to this, it would be a mistake to gloss over how misguided policies and regulations have hurt California's ability to prevent and respond to fires. According to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, shrubs and live and dead vegetation are the most important factor in forest fires, being an easily ignitable fuel source that helps spread the flames quickly over vast distances. For a dry and warm state prone to fires, regularly clearing measures removes this vegetation should be common sense. However, California has enacted several laws that heavily restrict such vital fire-preventing measures as long as logging, removal of dead trees, and clearing of dry underbrush. During a congressional hearing in May, California Congressman Tom McClintock blasted environmentalists for having fervently opposed such measures since the early 1970s, and said they have been advocating that forests be left to their own devices, despite the fact that thousands of years of history show that forests need to be appropriately maintained in order to reap all their benefits and reduce the risks of fire. The understanding of the environment has too often been trumped by politics in California. Okay, so links will be, that's in the American Thinker. Forests and wildfires, fixing the future by avoiding the past. Each year, wildfires destroy 6 to 14 million hectares of fire-sensitive forests worldwide, a rate of loss of degradation comparable to that destructive logging and agricultural conversion. At the same time, many fire-adapted forecasts that ecosystems are fire-starved. Humans, including government departments charged with the management of forest resources, are altering natural fire regimes around the world without regard to long-term consequences. Decision makers and the public are better at reacting to short-term recurring crises than focusing resources on long-term and sustainable solutions. Integrated approaches to fire management place greater emphasis on addressing underlying cause and seek long-term sustainable solutions that incorporate 5 essential elements: analysis of the fire issue and identification of option for positive change, prevention, focusing resources on the underlying causes of altered fire regimes, use, applying fire as a beneficial and appropriate management tool, 4, response, ensuring appropriate responses to inevitable wildfires, and 5, to inevitable wildfires, restoration, restoring fire-damaged ecosystems and reestablishing natural fire regimes. Resources need to be redirected to support research that improves the understanding of fire causes. Yes. Identifying existing management practices that encourage harmful fires and promotes management systems that mimic natural fire regimes or take advantage of well-established fire use. Finally, key stakeholders, especially local communities, need to be involved in fire management planning, while a concerted effort is required to develop compatible and mutually reinforcing land use laws for appropriate fire use. Forest fires are a growing problem. They're a growing problem. They're going to blame it on us, but we're not able to do what it is we've learned through history that we need to do. The guidelines for ecologically sustainable fire management. This came out in 2004, and it was in 2005 that I heard they started calling out people ahead of time, ahead of the fires. Fire prediction. It's like, how do you predict a fire? And that serves an agenda. Is all it does, is it serves the globalist agenda. Yes, we need to be sustainable. Yes, we need to be less consumeristic. Yes, we need to employ the solutions that the elite have suppressed. And the same elite that are pushing for this narrative, which they benefit on both sides of the coin. They're the old regime and the new regime. And they want us begging for the new regime. But they want to control the technology. They don't want us controlling. They don't want true sustainability. True sustainability is when you and I can live off the land without them. And ultimately, that's the biggest no-no. Every country that has signed on to Rio de Janeiro's Sustainability Agenda 21 in 1991 is no longer sustainable or is plummeting in their sustainability. And the fires are going on globally like it's on schedule. Is wildfire policy in the United States sustainable? Bushfire risk management, Greens, New South. Assumptions about bushfire prevention, mitigation, control, and management need review in the light of the need for ecologically sustainable management. I'm not sure when this was written. 2004? So this was in 2004. And 2004 is when they started having predictions on these fires. Or I don't know if that's when they started, but that's when my friend who worked for disaster relief started getting, it's time to rethink how we think forest fires, started getting notified before the fires. Why does California not institute a controlled burn policy to minimize forest and brush fires? Okay, most of the land involved is on federal, for example, national forests and BLM land. The Forest Service does conduct controlled burns on federal responsibility lands already. Fuel reduction programs include brush clearance and depending on the circumstances, either chipping or burning slash piles. The problem is in the millions of acres that need to be treated and the lack of funding to do it. Much of the timber in the Sierras is dead and dying, so much that there is no way to effectively treat it. God, think of all the fuel. I mean, if that was recycled, the fuel, I mean, that could be an industry. Just clearing the brush and recycling the brush wood, for other heating uses or whatever. Heating or building uses. The problem is the millions of acres that need to be treated and the lack of funding to do it. Much of the timber in the Sierras is dead and dying, so much that there is no way to effectively treat it. This work has to be followed up with maintenance in the future. It's not a one-shot deal. Federal effort have been spotty over the last 20 years. It depends on whether they get grant monies to do the work. They've had several projects in my area, Southern California mountains, making a dent in brush near me. There is much more to do. I'm on our local Fire Safe Council and also I'm a member of the Inland Fire Safe Alliance, a regional body. We work with the various fire agencies, federal, state, and local, to address these issues. We meet regularly and have developed community plans for implementing the fire safe strategies and educational programs. We coordinate services, assess needs, and apply for grants to help property owners on private land clear brush too. The problem with the overgrown brush began over 100 years ago, when the policy for fighting fires was changed to putting out all fires instead of letting them naturally clear out understory and ladder fuels. The fires of 1910, still of epic proportions by today's standards, burned millions across the West. The result has been unchecked, dense growth. When forests are thinned and combustible materials cleared, there is a greater chance that fires won't ground and move through strands of big trees like you see in TV footage and wildfires. For many millennia, fire has controlled the growth of these combustibles through natural processes. The environmental movement has decried these efforts and thus created an imminently dangerous situation that gets played out on a daily basis in the West. Good intentions without scientific backing that have led to deadly consequences. CAL FIRE is responsible for state lands. They are primarily firefighters but do some brush clearance. Again, not enough money. CAL FIRE has been collecting a property tax fire-free for homeowners in a high-risk land and in adjacent wildland, urban interface areas. However, this money does not go to brush clearance and firefighting. It goes to education. Bottom line, it does nothing for firefighting and prevention efforts. I say you erect a housing structure and you get homeless people who aren't drug addicts to go and volunteer for room and board to clear the brush. Give them a place to 3 square meals and all it costs you is 3 square meals. And let them have there could be something that could be done like that. That would take care of a few problems. It's not that we don't have enough people. It's that we don't have enough money. No, it's that we don't have enough love.
Survivors of the 1871 fire in Peshtigo, Wisconsin, which vaporized 1.5 million acres of forest and killed 1,500 people, reported a wall of flame 5 miles wide that traveled at 90 miles per hour and tossed trains into the air. 4 decades later, an even larger inferno roared through the Rocky Mountains, scorching an area the size of Connecticut. These epic wildfires and similar ones in between helped spawn the U.S. Forest Service and forged its aggressive policy to not only prevent wildfires, but to smother any that did start by no later than 10 a.m. the next day. And for a time, this policy seemed to work. The annual number of fires and area burned plummeted between 1920 and 1970. But fewer fires led to denser, more flammable forests, packed with the combustible needles of young conifers and the tinder-dry branches of dead or dying trees. So despite a continuing decline in the number of wildfires since 1970, the average blaze today burns hotter, faster, and bigger than it used to. And the total area burned per year in the US has more than doubled. Costs have flared too. The Forest Service now spends 52% of its annual budget on fire prevention and suppression, up from 16% just 20 years ago. What's more, wildfires will keep getting harder to tame as climate change turns forests hotter and drier, and homes edge further into fire-prone regions. The good news is that we can prevent future wildfires from getting so wild by taming forest fuel supply now. Essentially, this means letting some fires burn, or even starting them ourselves when conditions aren't too dry or windy, or selectively logging to thin out dangerously crowded growth. When and where we've used it, this strategy has made fires cooler, slower, and less destructive. For instance, when a blaze ripped through Okanagan County in Washington state in 2006, untamed swaths of forest lost 92% of their trees, while just 49% perished in areas recently thinned by cutting and controlled burns. And in 2002, parcels of recently burned land put the brakes on wildfires racing across Arizona's pine forests. These and other successes have led forest managers to prescribe controlled burning for much of the fire-prone western US, but few forests actually receive their recommended dosage. That's largely because while the US Forest Service can in theory write prescriptions for every tract of land it manages, it relies on Congress for the money to fill them. And so far, Congress allocates the vast majority of fire management funds to emergency measures rather than preventive ones. Plus, while emergency costs continue to surge, the Forest Service's budget doesn't. So fire managers are often forced to steal money from already meager fuel reduction programs to fight this year's blazes, thus fueling the risk that next year's fires will be costlier, deadlier, and more disastrous. So as counterintuitive as controlled burns may seem, it's time for Congress to understand that by not playing with fire, they are playing with fire.
All right, Akim, here it is, man. It's the brother DeBoer. I was just bringing y'all proof that that melted aluminum that they was talking about, right? Okay, actually went down, man. I'm looking at these houses right here, right? They straight, right? See this shit right here? Okay. All right. All up along the hillside, man. All right. You devils, been up to something, bro. But I mean, ain't no reason for the metal to be melted like that, bro. Okay? And then you got a tree standing right there. Okay? Hold on, I want y'all to see this, right? See how far that tree is, right? From this car? Okay? They on some bullshit.
Okay, I have peeled back the lateral roots. As you can see, I don't know, is that good or... So, I've peeled back the lateral roots. You can see that is the primary root system. Right there is where the seed was that's actually where it sprouted out of the seed. And you can see how woody and fleshy it is. And see how it goes right into the center of the plant. That's what feeds the top. That's what feeds the milo head. So that's what you look for. If anybody wants to troll me, if any farmer out there is watching this, and if you want to see if the chemtrails that they have admitted have aluminum in them, and these are examples of heavy metal toxicity. If you want, just go check for yourself. If your plant's loosely rooted in the ground, you can easily pull it up, and the primary root system has turned red. This is a chemical burn.
Is that not where the seed comes out right here?
Yeah, right there where that bug is where the seed comes out. There's where it sprouts. We'll find one with seed in it.
Yeah.
Still on it in a minute, but and okay.
Hello everyone, Jacob Schuster here, out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, Pierce County, Washington, South Puget Sound area. We're just out here. We got, can't quite see it, but the gorgeous Mount Rainier over there. And I just came out here. I was walking, dude. I like to come out here, get a little exercise, get a little fresh chemtrails, just, stretch my back out and everything. But I was out here yesterday riding, and I just, was kind of caught off guard by all the fall colors out here. And, just wondering if anyone could maybe fill me in on all these dead trees. We got basically perfect green on one side and yellow with this leaking this nasty red shit. See on this leaf here we got, it's windy out here guys, but nice and green, just yellow nastiness. I mean, let's try to get a good view here for you. Ain't right, but another observation I just seen with these Scotch brooms here, which is, you know, just an invasive species. No one likes it, but it's dying off. Even, believe it or not, this stuff nothing kills this stuff. I mean, nothing kills this stuff. It's insane, but something's killing it. See, and then we got. Just look at some of these treetops around here. Just standing dead trees everywhere. You know, they're just kind of literally breaking off. It's just, it's weird to see fall colors out here. It's April 26th or so. Early spring, and we got just a lot of yellow popping up. So, yeah, just a little report. I see a lot of videos like this popping up, and I think it's something that people definitely need to be aware of. Now the sun kind of, I mean, look at this. It's just, these are usually green and they're sagging. I mean, I'm an amateur farmer myself, and if this was my crop, I'd be wanting to know what's causing this, you know? Obviously, it's acidic soil is what we're believing is causing this, coming down with the due to geoengineering. The soil is just getting so acidic that these things are just cooking themselves. They can't take the heat. You know, all these trees are bent over and thin and just dying and keeled over, and you know, we aren't doing much better health-wise. Aluminum power.
Hello everyone, it is Sunday the 5th of January on a loop starting from the 11 a.m. to nearly 3 o'clock p.m. Now I want you to see these fires over here, all the microwave activity happening in here, popcorn cloud, all that microwaves from the satellites I'm thinking. I'm sure if I'm getting it wrong someone will tell me. Here you go, look at all those waves. Not good, driving that weather away from the fires. Now you look here at this weather here, radio waves right in here. Look at them. Look at those waves. Driving that weather, that rain and everything away from the fires. Okay, now look over here. More microwaves. Look at them, look at them, look at that. Look at all those waves. Okay, not natural. And look how it's driving that cloud away. And some more popcorn cloud. That's what they're calling it. Okay, now what I wanted to show you as well is over here in this system here. Now if you look at the loop, it shows a rectangle at the eye. Okay, they don't do rectangles. Okay, look at this. Squares, rectangles, doesn't happen in nature. Okay, it's round normally. But I'm watching to see what this area is going to do in the future. I'm not too sure. I'm sure other people that are a bit more experienced in this type of thing will know better than me. But I'm trying to show you what I am observing on the satellite live from everything that you can see. I'm not very good at these videos, but I am trying. These are my first few videos that I've been trying to do to help out everyone around the world that are trying to bring awareness to you all, okay? Because you guys wouldn't see this otherwise unless someone like us goes up physically onto the satellites and has a look from space, okay? They show you what they want to show you on the ground, and some people, not all, but some people just lap up what the TV's telling you. Now, we have cloud in my sky right now. I can show you. Cloud. Okay? Cloud. No rain. So what is this satellite showing you? There's hardly any cloud around here because there's no rain. And yet we have no sun. No plants can photosynthesize. But look at the smoke. And it's all going over to New Zealand. Look at these. What's this? Look at this. There are chemtrails being sprayed. Look. Look at all these microwaves. Not cool. Okay, these drive the weather systems. We have shown you enough sites, enough credible information, and even them saying it out of their own mouths that they can do this. They can use their Doppler radars, any kind of frequency, tap into the weather systems, the rivers that run the earth, which I will show you. I don't know if I can bring up. Here's the world map. I'm not very experienced at this like the others are. But if I can show you the rivers, I think it's in the, hang on, I'm going to go here, let me come out, and go to the infrared. I think that shows it better. And there you have it. All circling around here, where, down here, is where the next Doppler radar is situated. And there's one over here in Townsville, and there's many others, but I'd have to look up where they are. But these are the two that I've definitely seen photos of and know that they create these patterns. Okay, or if you're looking at it all, it's all being pushed away from Australia. None of that rain in those rivers are coming anywhere close to us. Or even this one here is coming close to this fire. Okay, none of it. Okay, this whole system is not going anywhere near these fires to put them out. But yet, we are showing you countless sites, the Clara project, other sites that are showing you where these train lines are going from Brisbane to Melbourne to Sydney, all on this side. And people are being kicked off their land. Animals are dying in the thousands, if not more. It's all great, wonderful that you care, but it's time that we stop history repeating itself and stop waiting till we are told, because that is too late. Okay? This is happening. This is a rape of our world. And I, for one, am not going to stand by and just let that happen and go, oh, well, I can see it happening, but what can I do? Well, so did 1,000,000 other 1,100 people around the world say. What can we do? When we all stick together, we all stand up together, we outnumber the ones that are hurting this planet, and we all stand together. That's what they're trying to prevent. That we are smarter than this. That we do know this. What's going on in here? Look at this. All circling around. I just spotted it on the camera. Just all circling around, not even coming anywhere close to inland. Okay? They control this. They can do this. They have satellites in place. They have ground frequencies. This is happening. And I'm going to have courage. I'm going to stand up with everyone else on the planet. At least if we do go down, because not enough of us will wake up, well, at least I can go to my grave knowing that I wasn't silent. That I stood in the crowd with the rest of them, and I tried to make my son, who's 8, He's going to be on this planet a lot longer than me, and his children at least have a fighting chance to keep their planet.
Are a planned burn. I gotta say, it's planned. You're not gonna going in very. Just want to show you a few basic things. First thing I want to show you is this pulse wave coming across, and that is a pulse wave. I'll show you that clearly on Worldview, the EMF that's doing it. I want you to see these fires, how these winds they kick up very suddenly at the same time as these microwaves get turned on. See those popcorn clouds nucleating all at once in the same area. There's no space weather event, folks. None at all. So this is being caused by your localized NEXRADs. Keep telling you all that. I've shared some information about how NEXRADs can influence weather. But hey, do your homework. Google that phrase or whatever search engine you use. You'll see what I'm talking about. This moisture here is pretty much being directed. You see this pulse wave out here? Keeping moisture away from coming into Australia at this time. Going in very predictable ways. There's a nucleation here that's forcing this to turn where it's wanted and out of Australia. Look at how this plumes, they dip down. This whole stream of moisture is dipping down. And that's being controlled by man. These fires here are a planned burn. I gotta say, it's planned. You're not gonna tell me that you can forecast super duper infernos when you can't even tell me what the weather's gonna be next week. You can't accurately. And they tell us all sorts. I'm gonna slow this down. You know, look at that pulse coming through. A lot of meetings of rivers of moisture and air going on here. See that pulse coming through this bank of clouds here, showing clearly that microwave electromagnetic frequency is being used to determine not only where the smoke goes, but where the moisture does not go. It's vaporized. And this is a funnel of wind that's going to be catastrophic. You know, when you blow on your campfire like that, the embers can kick up. So areas that have burnt already can easily reignite. The microwaves through here. You know, I'm going to slow this down now, and we'll do a frame by frame. This is as close as it's letting me zoom in. See the EMF signature through here? Terrible. It's terrible when you know that a government is capable of doing this. Even the smoke that's gone over New Zealand here. I'm going to show you real quick, see if it lets me do my zoom bit for them as well. Look at the frying they're getting here. See how those clouds don't move? They stay in place. They're standing waves of energy, nucleating cloud condensate. In other words, a waveform making a cloud that stays there. It's not moving. It's stationary. Stationary over your country. I'll slow it down. Look at these plumes. This is going to go into that, and it's going to come straight over you, New Zealand. I hope you guys got a very good particulate masks you can put on. You might even want to sleep with them on. Oh, it's summertime, and a lot of people sleep with their windows open. Well, you're going to get toxified in your sleep, asphyxiated, folks. This is a very dangerous situation for the health of people. Very dangerous. You know, it's just unacceptable.
What is this technology?
Essentially, we're drawing oceanic rain systems that exist over the oceans into geographic targets, into our agricultural areas. The technology uses electromagnetics, so we're not interfering with the atmosphere or with the environment. We're not damaging it. We're not using chemicals fired through rockets like other technologies use. We use a very gentle but powerful technology launching electromagnetics into the atmosphere to modify the flow of the weather system over the ocean and drawing it into a target. So to try and keep it simple, we establish some kind of link with a weather system, and once we've seen through satellite meteorology that we have that link, we're able to draw that system in incrementally towards the target, such as in this case the Horn of Africa.
So let's take this one as a case study. This was April 20th through the 21st of 2012. This was a visual that they showed on the website, and just as an example of their composite map, and I thought it was a great example to use because here you can actually see you have a front coming through, and then the Doppler radars build a wall. They bloom out, stopping it from continuing on, and it sends it up instead. So it's coming across, but the blooms come, and then it breaks it up and sends it out. And this is even illustrated really well on the slower one here. See, this Doppler takes that line of weather, and because it's right over here, that energy goes like that, goes around it, like it splits it up like it's a Laffy Taffy being pulled on a line of conveyor belts.
You see the Doppler can turn one way, and then it moves the wind. The little red ball is the piece of energy coming through, and the Doppler will.
Coming in, coming in, coming in, bloom, separate, split. Over here too, you can see there's some weather coming in, and it blooms, breaking it up. Sometimes it's not strong enough to get rid of it altogether, but it kind of desiccates it like a desiccated cell or something. It loses its fullness. I could tell when they're raising the, I mean, these create low and high pressure fronts. I don't know about a front, but high and low pressure areas. So this is low pressure, 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 high pressure. Low pressure, low pressure, low pressure, low pressure, low pressure, low pressure, high pressure.
Guys, this is an emergency broadcast for anybody that you know in California or have any way that you can get information to people in California. It's been said and known in the last little bit that there was a fire that outbroke in Sandalwood, California. It's east of LA, okay? Up in the foothills, east of LA, down the valley there, basically. You can see it in the center of the screen. It's two explosions that look to be about, I don't know, probably 30, 40 miles apart. There are two different fires that exploded at the exact same moment there. You can see them in the center of the screen. Two fires, two locations, two explosions. Well, the only thing is there are three more. If you look over to the right-hand side of your screen, out in front of the bubble, right in front of the bubble, the little orange bubble on the right side of the screen. You see that one? At the exact same moment, these two other explosions take place. One on the right-hand side, and I don't know that exact location yet, explodes and takes place. Then to the north, at the exact same moment, at the state line, another explosion takes place at the exact same moment. It can be seen to the right of the screen, near the orange bubble. Straight out in front of the orange bubble now. You can see the smoke plume starting to come up from it. Huge fire. Also, up the valley, we've got another huge explosion. All simultaneous. At least 5 explosions all at the same time I don't know what's going on in California, whether they're going to claim this as forest fires or what they're doing, but California is under attack.
Okay, guys, Nola Butterfly here, and we're going to talk about the globes a-burnin', global fires. Now, we on the forefront of independent investigation and journalistic research that have been at this for a while, who know where the technology is at, and have been following the fires out in California, namely most recently the Paradise Fire, which was out of the box, outside of the norm in so many ways. And there were anomalies. First of all, the fact that electric company needs to shut off power for a whole state anytime there's a wind event, that's a red flag right there. That's not how it used to be for over 100 years. We could manage electricity and wind. This is all falls into a narrative of false sustainability. And what we're seeing right now is a ramping up of these fires, global fires, and the same signatures we saw out in California, we are now seeing across the globe. And my friends, I have been attacked for saying this, but the horrible truth that nobody wants to face, but we better get strong in, is that we are under attack. It's not just out in California. This is a global attack. Of course, if America falls, then in theory the rest of the world falls down too, because we are the beacon of liberty. We are the ones who champion free speech. Even in Europe, where they think there's free speech, it's free as long as it's not hate speech, and hate speech is defined by an outside entity. We have no limits on speech. because the threats from absolute power, the governmental and structures of the powers that be, is a far more ferocious beast than the tongue of an individual can be. So we've learned that in history, that oligarchy is an entity that will manifest in society if society is not adherent to liberty. And we have been exposing over the years all these tools, all these stated intentions to wage war on humanity without them knowing, using the elements. And this falls right into our global warming narrative now. While everybody was ignoring the satellites going up with directed energy potential, while everybody was ignoring the climate changing contrail pollution that we were calling chemtrails, but as jet cirrus is chemical pollution of the sky, it's cloud condensation nuclei that is thickening the sky and dehydrating, actually, the sky. And we're seeing it work both with the climate systems, managing the fronts and dehydrating where needed, creating boundary layers, also creating metallic plasma on which to bounce the electromagnetic high frequency microwaves off of. And we're seeing multiple fires starting in California. We're seeing entire communities wiped out and the people in their cars lined up. Never has there been so many people that died in their cars trying to outrun a fire that just all of a sudden was on them somehow. Cars torched, but no trees on the sides of the roads torched. Entire communities leveled while the grass and the trees are fine around them. This has a very unique signature that firefighters from decades are saying is breaking all records. What we're seeing now is an agenda that has been unleashed, and now the green light has been given to get the fires going globally, so as to throw that into the narrative of climate change. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what did yours truly discover? Yours truly discovered that the hurricanes are going into the Doppler radars, the microwave radars that are supposed to be predicting, reading the weather and slightly predictive, actually leading, creating the weather. And then we discovered it's creating high and low pressure fronts every day as well. And so now we have a global agenda, Operation Torch California, a massive false flag operation designed as next phase of Agenda 21. There's a lot of reasons. You can guess why. I mean, to distract from massive election theft. Yes, and my God, this could have been tied into election theft for an agenda. Absolutely. I mean, this is what using weather as a weapon for agendas, but it's multiple agendas. It feeds into the global warming narrative. Homes completely leveled, trees still standing. Okay, this is just using the, the evidence is not in the motive, really. The evidence is in the fires themselves and their thumbprint. Burning out. Train for the worst conditions, but the worst conditions are getting worse. Are they ready for the next big disaster? After more than a week fighting the most destructive wildfire in California history, the Santa Rosa fire captain had just a few hours to study the maps and get some rest. His deployment on a fire crew was over, but hundreds of people were missing, and FEMA's Urban Search and Rescue Task Force 4 needed someone to help manage the search. There are still people missing from the Paradise Fire that have not been accounted for. This is a mass genocide. It's a literal Holocaust, burning of the flesh, offering paradise. Paradise offered. Thomas set his alarm for 3 a.m. He was going back to paradise. New kinds of disasters require new response plans and training, and bigger ones need more people who know what to do. In 2018, wildfires swept not only California, Australia, and Greece, but also the colder, wetter landscapes of England, Ireland, and Sweden. Kerala, India was hit by one of the worst floods ever recorded, killing more than 500 people. A heat wave hospitalized 22,000 in Japan. And a series of tropical storms and typhoons affected more than 10 million across the Philippines. A bomb cyclone slammed the U.S. Northeast. Avalanches crushed Colorado. Mudslides buried Montecito, California. Record-breaking. They're driving the rain up there. They've got weather modification, just drive the rain up there, and then they have a snowpack which causes flooding when it comes down the hill and then takes out farmland along the river. That's not global warming. That's geoengineering, baby. To climate scientists, the pattern of increasing extremes comes as no surprise. It's in line with projections for life on a warming planet. The things that they tell you in the climate change narrative, they tell you that global warming discriminates against the poor first and then the rich. Well, it discriminates because pollution discriminates. It dumps on whoever the poor are first. Then the rich get it because we're all on the same planet, and you can't really separate yourself from the filth once it's all out and about and aerosolized in the air, can you? See, I believe that in the Agenda 21 Rio de Janeiro summit, where Agenda 21 was born, it was decided that they would allow the Amazon to increase in forests. They would actually grant permission to these people to burn up the Amazon. They would hype it up even more. And this would fall into the narrative of making people desperate. Look at this photos. Major wildfires have ignited across Europe, Asia, and Latin America. The Amazon rainforest is not the only place on fire right now. Why is everything burning up all of a sudden? What does this have to do with global warming? All of a sudden there's just more fires? We know there's directed energy fires in California. The fires in the Amazon are being allowed to take place. I mean, how do you just let people settle on land they clear cut like it wasn't, and then just let them say they were always there? Like you hadn't defined the boundaries of the fire? The boundaries of property yet? As if that's not established with the states and the provinces? I'm not buying that. Beekeepers traumatized and counseled after hearing animals screaming in pain after brush fires. Beekeepers checking on hives are some of the first people into fire-ravaged forests and are not prepared for the traumatic sights and sounds of wounded and suffering animals. These older beekeepers will go in and make sure the forest isn't screaming at them before they allow these young people back in. Concern for mental health. Do you know that it wasn't Katrina that I lost friends in? A lot of people lost people during Katrina. It was the year after. And there's 5 suicides. And I found the last one. Trauma, trauma, trauma. There's so much trauma being born that isn't even here yet. And the trauma's not done being unleashed. But as long as it's natural, man-made global warming. Yeah, it's man-made global warming, buddies. It's man-made. Global forest watch fires. The world's on fire. It's just like... Sheesh, this is very interesting. Like apparently the whole world is on fire. Just in the last week. The whole world is on fire. Okay. The data shown on this page represents information on fire alerts, quote unquote, or hotspots, detection of thermal sensors on different NASA satellites, resulting in 2 fire products labeled modest and VIRS throughout this report. It is important to distinguish fire alerts from actual fires. A fire alert is a detection of a thermal anomaly from a surface that produces a substantial amount of heat, which can range from a fire to a hot asphalt road. Although the occurrence of false positives is relatively low, 7% for modest version 6, they can still occur, especially in areas with more man-made surfaces. The accuracy of the alerts within forests varies with the size of the fire and tree canopy density. Additionally, Global Fire Watch reports all fire alerts and does not filter by any alert confidence level, while some other platforms might. So it's basically the entire world, except there doesn't seem to be much in the Sahara up here, North Saharan Africa. It's so funny, the desert's not burning. And I guess it's a consistent temperature. But everything else is, and not down here, the southernmost tip of Chile. But all of China, not so much. This might be actual individual. This looks like it might be, I wonder how much Doppler radar plays into this. Sure, about the sizes of Doppler radars. I mean, we didn't have fires here this last week that I know of. So what is this? Doppler radar pickup? Very, very interesting. Because I know there weren't that many fires. I mean, let's see, talking about a house fire. Destruction of Brazil. Agenda 21. Bye-bye, Brazil. Obama hedged and built this. Look, don't be fooled by partisanship. It's not about Obama versus Trump. They're all in this together. For about a decade there, Brazil was in the Latin American country that got it right. Under a socialist but apparently reasonable government, they kept their budgets under control, managed a population shift from farm to city, Agenda 21, and developed some efficient export industries that brought in plenty of hard currency. The Brazilian currency, called the real, held its own on foreign exchange markets, and inflation was, as a result, moderate. North Korea, an Agenda 21 state. Israel is already a New World Order Agenda 21 state. Iraq's Agenda 21, forcing rural into tight urban centers. China's vacant cities for Agenda 21 urbanization before corruption crackdown. Oh, they had corruption crackdown? Then it fell apart. The US dollar spiked, commodity prices tanked, and it was discovered that a whole range of big local players were gaming the system in various ways, sparking a corruption scandal that reaches all the way to the top. Brazil's real is now the worst performing major currency in a world of badly performing major currencies. Its budget deficit is 8% of GDP. The interest rate on its 10-year bonds exceed 15%, and GDP is apparently about to fall off the table. Sabotage Brazil arrests 17 Chevron oil execs for environmental crimes against the people. A big part of the problem is the decision by major Brazilian companies like oil giant Petróleo Brasileiro to fund their rapid growth by borrowing tens of billions of US dollars. When the real was rising and dollar interest rates were low, this strategy was a double winner. But when the dollar spiked in 2014, the true cost of these loans went through the roof. BP oil spill and deadly Corexit may kill millions of U.S. citizens. U.S. strategic petroleum reserves stored in collapsing salt domes on coast of Louisiana. Whenever there's a south of the border crisis, Citigroup, Goldman, and JP Morgan are in the mix demanding a bailout, so the end of the year-end bonuses aren't affected. Brazil's U.S. $133 billion 10-year push in search of oil and gas. Obama sending billions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to Brazil for Brazil to drill new offshore oil wells. How is that environmentally friendly? The Mexican peso crisis of 1994 was in fact the genesis of Greenspan, but that turned the money center banks into giant hedge funds. So Brazil will illustrate the differences between now and then, if there are any. Dollar collapse. Photo of Rothschild's New World Order Trinity: Mikhail Gorbachev, Lionel Jospin, and Maurice Strong. They're all buddies. Fire statistics, world fire statistics of Russia, Germany, USA. The Center of Fire Statistics of International Association of Fire and Rescue Services presents its latest report, number 23. Statistics on numbers of rates and of fires, deaths, and injuries due to fires, and on-duty firefighter deaths and injuries, whether sustained at fires or not. Based on 39 countries and 34 of the cities in the world, from 2012 to 2016, data on fires and losses during 2012 and 2016 are provided from 57 countries that have supplied data for one or more of the 5 years in 2012-2016. In each table, the number of countries with data shown varies depending on the number of countries that have reported data for the displayed statistics anytime in 2012-2016. In addition, statistics on resources of the fire services are presented for 55 countries. In Table 1, overview of the fire problem in the world from 1993 to 2016 is presented. Statistical data for earlier years are carried forward unchanged from previous reports, even though countries that join the report for the first time often provide data for older years. In many years, we welcome the participation of even more countries. We see this as a sign that more and more countries are developing national fire statistics and publishing their results in readily accessible documents. On average, 39 countries are involved here. Table 1 shows 1993 to 2016 total fire statistics from 25 to 57 countries, collectively representing, in these countries from 1993 to 2016, 2.5 to 4.5 million fires and 21 to 62,000 fire deaths were reported to fire services depending on the year. Okay, this figure, Table 2 and Figure 1-4 shows that in 39 countries representing 1.2 billion INH, 15% of the world's population, 48 million calls, 3.03 million fires, 18,000 civilian fire deaths, and 58.7 thousand civilian fire injuries were reported by fire. Okay. The highest call rates relative to population were found in Czech Republic. We think it is all phone calls to fire service. USA and France, more than 60% of all calls are medical aid in USA and France. The highest fire rates relative, okay, so the Czech Republic, USA, and France. Okay, France, I think they burn, like they're always just setting themselves on fire. Or the Muslims are, really, honestly. Anywho. The highest fire rates relative to population are found in Israel, Austria, and Bulgaria. Okay, Israel is a very condensed country. I don't know about Austria and Bulgaria. The highest fire death rates relative to population are found in Russia, Belarus, Latvia, and Ukraine. Gosh, I guess they're not really well equipped to fight fires in the cold. The highest fire deaths rates per 100 fires are found in Taiwan, Belarus, and Russia. Table 4, Figure 6 must be read with caution because of often substantial differences in reporting categories among countries. For example, some countries, primarily European countries, report chimney fires separately, while others, including the USA, report chimney fires as part of the structure fires. Some countries, including Belarus and Russia, apparently do not include most wild land, grass, and bush fires. The USA statistics do not include fires handled by federal or state agencies. Really? Oh, that's too bad. The USA statistics do not include fires handled by federal or state agencies. That means none of the directed energy weapons fires. Okay. Well, that's interesting. And why not? Would that be too revealing? Would that bring the death toll up too high? So there's like usually one death per 100 fires. Per 1,000 inhabitants, there's three deaths. Okay, there's a lot of ways to study these numbers. Oh, forest fires. Here's an interesting one. Okay, countries, the number of fires, the type of forest, right? There's Though the forest fires are not listed. Okay, that's too bad. We don't have that information for forest fires in our numbers. Oh, so these numbers don't have anything to do with forest fires even. So they don't participate. That's interesting. The United States does not participate. They're federal numbers. So any fire that is fought by basically, if the federal government gets called in to fight a fire, they don't have to report it in the statistics. They don't have to report the number of deaths per fire to skew things really, really. That's interesting. I don't know if this is all fire reports, but they're definitely not reporting to the World Fire Statistics reports on their fires, at least in up to 2018. So I'm going to see if I can find one for 2019. Let's look at the conclusion real quick. Okay. Well, all right, never mind. I think we're done here. So I was just curious what the final number of missing people was. I mean, we had thousands that were missing initially when the chaos ensued and people were running left and right to get away from the fires, but then there were thousands and hundreds, then the final numbers came down to 10, a drop of one person. Reported the number of people unaccounted for was at 11. Before that, the number of camp fatalities remained unchanged at 85. Authorities have been successful in accounting for 3,271 people. Of the 85 fatalities, 36 people have been tentatively identified and a total of 46 have been positively identified, the Butte County Sheriff Office said. The number believed killed has fallen from 88 to 85. The death toll had been 88 since November 25th. If you want to do your gematria, 88 is 8 times 11. 11 is a master number. 8 is a harvest. Master harvest. But those numbers fluctuated, and actually, at one time the list had 1,276 names. So let's see how 85 people confirmed dead, plus 10 still missing. So it could be 85 plus or minus 10. Okay? 95. 85 to 95. What is that? 90? Let's just say 90 on that average. There's 90 people that died in this fire. Conservatively. I mean, we can be sure of this. Potentially more. But let's not overreach. The 10 most significant wildfire events based on the number of fatalities from 1900 to 2016. There was the forest fire in 1918. 1,000 people died. Well, that was a big deal. Was it like San Francisco fire? I'm not sure. No, that was a really big forest fire. So that created the national forestry, I believe. Indonesia, 1997. China forest fire, 1987. 191 people died in that. Okay, we have nothing to do with China. We can be damn sure about that. We are not doing directed energy. Anything China is getting is China is doing. Okay. Brush fire, 2009, 180 died. United States forest fire, 1944, 121. France, 80 in 1949. Let's look at this. A major wildfire occurred at the 1949 Loms forest fire. A major wildfire occurred from 19th of August 1949 to the 25th of August 1949 in the Landes forest in France. 50,000 hectares of forest land were burnt and 82 people were killed. It was considered the most deadly forest fire in Europe until the 2007 and 2018 wildfires in Greece, which killed 84 and 99 people respectively. Since both fire events in Greece can be distinguished as multiple fire event, the Landes fire still ranks as the deadliest wildfire in Europe since record-keeping began. So, it's very exceptional to have that many people die. In fact, it's only recently that we have these numbers. And in this last century, 1949, okay, it was considered the most deadly forest fire in Europe. Let's go back to our list. Australia scrub grassland fire, 1983. Canada forest fire, July 11th, 1911. Australia scrub Grassland fire, 1939, 71 people killed. Greece forest fire, 2007, 65 people killed. And here we have a chart of fatalities in the United States from 1990 to 2013. The highest on a couple occasions was 34. So the Paradise Fire was about triple that. 2.5 to 3 times that. It's a large number. I mean, in all these fires, why couldn't people get away? What I'm not understanding is why the media was reporting lower numbers. Death toll, 31. Hollywood celebrities lose their homes. California wildfires. This is November 12th. Death toll, 31. And yet, campfire update on November 13th, 2018, right? It's 2018, says it's unchanged at 85. Do you see what's going on here? 31. 1 day later, unchanged at 85 plus 10 still missing. It's quite a difference. It's like triple the numbers. 2.5 times the numbers. That's really bad reporting. If it had been unchanged at 85. Why don't they want to report the real numbers? Interesting. Wildfires kill 339,000 people per year. Study. The number of deaths from wildfires came in far below the previously estimated global tolls for indoor air pollution at 2 million people per year and urban air pollution at 800,000 people. So you're still better off breathing in fire fumes than pollution from your home or urban areas. But fire emissions are an important contributor to global mortality, a significant link between climate and fire mortality. That's interesting. But twice as many people died during El Nino years when the surface ocean temperature rises in the tropical eastern Pacific Ocean, averaging 532,000, as during cooler La Nina years, averaging 262,000. Deaths could be reduced if people stop burning tropical rainforests in order to harvest palm oil and other products, Johnson concluded. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But fires will only get more severe in the future, according to Mike Flanagan, a professor at the University of Alberta and a government scientist with Natural Resources Canada, who has done research to model how severe fires will be in the years 2081 and 2090. Using a variable he called cumulative daily severity rating, Flanagan's projections show the fire activity is increasing over most of the globe, particularly in the northern hemisphere, by a factor of 2 or 3. Why would the northern hemisphere be increasing its fires? I mean, significant increases in fire activity should be expected by the end of this century as the globe gets warmer, he said. It is the extreme weather that drives fire activity. And if we expect more extremes in the future, which we do, then it is only going to get worse. We have people in California saying, don't blame climate change for this. This is a PG&E failure.
Raj, PG&E says that its procedures meet or exceed state mandates for fire safety, but attorneys who represent families who lost their homes in the North Bay fires say that this report basically shows that those procedures failed. CAL FIRE investigators call it the October 2017 fire siege. 12 devastating fires that destroyed homes and took lives across several counties. In a statement released by PG&E, the company says it plans to review the findings in detail.
Based on the information we have so far, we continue to believe our overall programs met our state's high standards. And it's clear the growing extreme weather threat has created a new weather normal.
Climate change, the new normal, is not an excuse. It's a scapegoat by management because they need to blame something.
At a quickly assembled news conference, attorney Frank Petrie called PG&E to task. He represents people who lost their homes in the North Bay fires. According to the CAL FIRE summary of findings, inspectors concluded that electric power lines and failed power poles caused 12 fires that burned across 6 counties. Petrie argues PG&E is liable because it knew weather forecasts of windstorms.
PG&E had that information days before these fires hit. There was no policy, practice, or procedure by PG&E to deactivate reclosers or de-energize lines.
So it's getting to the point where it's beyond our control. And there's about the size of India burning up. Aerial suppression will need to be abandoned because they will not work against hotter, more intense fires. It's going to be incredibly difficult in the future to manage forest fires because the intensity of fires is going to be increasing, and that changes the strategy of putting fires out. Why is this only in the Northern Hemisphere? Mostly in the Northern Hemisphere. Yeah, community builders should consider fire-resistant home materials, yes. Governments may need to consider stronger measures in prevention, education, penalties, and restricted fire zones, he said. We're going to see more fires in the future. That is the bottom line. A warmer world is going to see more fire. Okay, so why are we seeing explosions that are simultaneous? Let's be real. Here we go. Wildland fire fatalities by year. NIFC.gov/safety_documents/fatalities by year PDF. Okay. Wildland fire fatalities by year. Hypothermia, burnover, snag, vehicle rollover. Okay, so these are wildland fire fatalities by year. 84 in 1910, 78 in Idaho, 5 and 1 and 8, 29 in 1933. Wow, it's funny they don't have the 1918 one of 1,000. Why isn't the 1918 one here? 31, 1933, 34, 35. All these are really low numbers. 12, 21, 13, 15, 7, 6, 1, 15, 1, 2, 1, 2, 27, 1952 at 3, 1953, 19, 54, 9. Okay, well that was a European wildfire. So, asphyxiation, 1909, 8. We're in the 50s, you know, I mean, short of like that one, 1910, it was 84. 1966, 13, 11, 1968, 20, 1969, 1, 6, 9, 12, 13, 8, 3, 6, 15. I mean, these are really low numbers. 5, 13, 8, 7, 2, 13 in 1983. 1984, we have 19, big number. 1985, we have 8. 1986, we have 9. 1987, we have 24. Ooh, high numbers. And these are multiple fires, okay? It's not one fire. 1988, 29 fires. No, 1988 is when Doppler radar rolls out in the southwest. These are all over, these fires. Only one person died in California. Right? Montana, there's a few people. So none of this is impressive, right? 1989, 14. 1990, 23 people died. 1991, 13. 1992, 13. 1993, 8. 1994. So when they finished rolling out Doppler radar, 35. But, okay, so that's in Colorado. These are small numbers. Helicopter crash there. 14. Colorado had the biggest. A lot of different areas. 1995, 15. Someone committed suicide. This is quite striking to see how people die in these fires. You get a bigger picture. People trying to outrun fires, getting in an accident, people roll over. It's the panic, heart attack. The suicide's better than take a bullet to the head than burning. Okay, 10, 14, 1999, 26. Execution, God. California, more and more on California, but it's still like in the single digits. 2000, 17 people. 2001, 18. 2002, 23. Yeah. 2003, 30. Small little fires. Using microwaves to radiate the field is going to make things dry. Spraying chemtrails or contrail pollution, however you want to look at it, all over the planet. Sprinkling pixie dust of little bits of aluminum and soot and all sorts of things make things more flammable. So, but none of these are really large numbers. Just yet, all things considered. I mean, these are multiple fires across the country. So these death tolls for Arizona, California. California is getting more. Oh, there's 8 people. But from New York to Utah, 2007, 9 people died in all these fires. 2008, 25 people died in all these fires. Oh, more and more in California. This was a helicopter crash. 9 people died from a helicopter crash. 2009, 15. 2010, 8. 2011, 11. 2012, 15. 2013, 34. Oh, 2013 was busy. 19 in Arizona. Okay, this is an entrapment issue. California, just a couple. See, people don't die from these fires. They usually can get out. 2014, 2015. I mean, you get 1, 2, 3, 4 people in California. 2016, 15, 14, and 20. And it stops right there. There's only 14 people that died in 2017. All right. This is fatalities. Wildland fire. Fatalities by year in the U.S. These are really small numbers. And then you have this. And you have 85 people. But then death toll 31. What's up with the discrepancies in the reporting? And I don't know how long it's going to take here, but fire deaths on the rise, 2008 to 2017. Is there a reason we can't get any 2018 statistics? Death toll rises to 91 in deadly Greece wildfire. Here's a Time story by Gina Martinez on November 14th. The California fire that killed 48 people is the deadliest U.S. wildfire in a century. Why are they saying 48 people when we have an 85 unchanged 85 fatalities? I mean, they're not going to just suddenly say, oh, no, this guy's not dead. Sorry, we had it wrong. They're hiding the numbers. Why is that? Unless they're running with a story that's several days old. But no, you don't run with a story and numbers. You check those numbers and you just change the numbers, keep the story the same if you have to. Surpassing the 1930, the Camp Fire already became the deadliest fire in California history earlier this week, surpassing the 1933 Griffith Park fire in Los Angeles, which killed 29. It also surpassed the 2013 Yarnell Hill fire, which killed 19 members of the Granite Mountain Hot Shots firefighting crew. And this is firefighters. Not since the Cloquet fire in the 1918 has a wildfire killed so many people in the United States. An estimated 450 died in the wildfire of Minnesota, and yet Wikipedia says 1,000. So, I mean, there's a discrepancy in the numbers. 1,000 is a little bit too round of a number. 450 makes more sense. The deadliest fire in the U.S. history was the Peshtigo fire in Wisconsin in 1871. At least 1,200 people died. So they're saying the grim milestone of the campfire is the result of increasing development in fire-prone areas and climate change. Well, we already know about climate change. That makes wildfires more intense. It sure does. Sure does. Geoengineering the F out of all the life on Earth makes things more flammable. Changing policies that don't allow for controlling the landscape like the Native Americans used to do. More controlled fires, smaller fires. That's bad policy. That causes more fires. But directed energy weapons and grid blowback absolutely is going to increase your fire and fatality count. Worried that this will result in wildfires regularly returning to levels of destruction not seen since before the advent of modern firefighting and prevention. I mean, it's part of the narrative. There's multiple things causing these fires. CO2, one of the last things on that list. Meanwhile, back in Jakarta, the weather's piling up because of the blockade going on in Australia. They get floods that they haven't had in over a decade, and of course a decade ago we were experiencing climate engineering effects, so hard to be sure that these were natural floods to begin with that we are mirroring here, but it was over a decade and not ordinary rain, according to the Jakarta Post. Worst rainfall in over a decade causes massive floods in Jakarta, causing severe flooding in the capital and its satellite cities on the first day of 2020. Jakarta is right up in here. So as they're bunching up, they're keeping the rain off of the most needed parts, there's gathering, there's bunching up that takes place, and that bunching up caused flooding. Okay, that's what happened. And they've got that storm that brought a little bit of relief. I don't know what the status is now. I have to check up. Cashless economy collapses as ATMs fail. Supermarket looted. They have no capacity to contain these fires. Now look at this. Single file line. Can you all tell me why there's a single file line when there's 2 lanes? Why are they making them go in a single file line? There's 3 lanes. It's just like those people who burned up when they closed up, there was very little ways for them out of paradise. And from what I understand, those that follow the story, they were looking for there were 25,000 in paradise, 25,000 in the surrounding areas. You couldn't just evacuate to the surrounding areas because you didn't know which way the fire was going to go. The shelters only accounted for so many people. The city shelters only accounted for so many people. The hotels, all that only accounted for so many people, for the people that were counting or trying to make the count. And then the discrepancy between the local papers and the national papers on the death count don't make sense. That it was within 40 and already 88 was a ton. But there were way more than that were missing. It'd be interesting to see where the final death count is at today and why those numbers are not made readily available to the public.
This is what the locals do with it.
There you go. Some happy locals now. Now. The rain dance. Where are we? It's playing, isn't it? No, Roland's playing.
Kiss and rain.
She's happy.